I cried in that bathroom for the last time on a Tuesday. It wasn't dramatic, there was no screaming, no glass breaking. Just fluorescent lights buzzing above me and the sound of my own breathing echoing against cold tile walls. I had locked myself in the third stall, the one with the broken latch that you had to hold shut with your foot. Again. Grant had just torn apart my presentation in front of the entire firm. He didn't yell, he didn't need to. He just adjusted his cufflinks and said, "Lillian, this is ambitious, but ambition without competence is dangerous." The room laughed. Not loudly, just enough. Madison covered her mouth like she was shocked, but her eyes were smiling. And I stood there, frozen, holding the remote to the slideshow like it was the only thing keeping me upright. So I did what I always did. I nodded. I apologized. I said, "I'll fix it." And then I walked straight to the bathroom. The first time I cried in that stall was 6 months earlier, back when I still believed if I just worked harder, they'd respect me. I stayed late every night. I skipped lunches. I redid projects 3 times before showing anyone. But every meeting, Grant found something. A line too sharp, a structure too bold, a design not aligned with the firm's vision. Funny how his vision looked exactly like my ideas, 6 weeks later, with his name on them. That Tuesday, as I sat on the closed toilet lid, staring at the crack in the tile, something inside me felt different. Not broken. Don't. I wasn't crying because he embarrassed me. I was crying because I finally understood. He wasn't going to change, and shrinking myself wasn't going to save me. That night, I went home to my tiny apartment and found my mom sitting at the kitchen table. She'd come by to drop off soup. "You look tired," she said softly. I almost said, "I'm fine." Instead, I sat down, and I told her everything. About the meetings, about the credit stealing, about how small I felt every single day. She didn't interrupt. When I finished, she just said, "Lily, when did you start asking permission to be talented?" That sentence hit harder than anything Grant ever said. The next morning, I did something I'd never done before. I stopped apologizing. When Grant asked for revisions, I asked, "Specifically, which structural elements don't meet your stated criteria?" He blinked. When Madison tried to subtly undermine me in a meeting, I said, "Interesting perspective. Could you clarify what data supports that?" The room went quiet. Not because I was rude, because I wasn't small anymore. But that wasn't the real turning point. The real turning point came 2 weeks later. Ethan from IT stopped by my desk. "I don't think you know this," he said quietly, "but the original files from your Riverside project are still on the server history." I frowned. So, the timestamps show you submitted that design before Grant presented it to the board. My heart stopped. "You're sure?" He nodded. "Very." For 6 months, I had watched my designs get subtly rebranded, adjusted just enough, presented as team collaboration, but the files didn't lie. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel scared. I felt steady. I didn't storm into his office. I didn't yell. I did something smarter. I documented everything. Dates, file histories, email threads. Then I requested a private meeting with the board. Not to accuse, to present. The day of the board meeting, Madison avoided eye contact. Grant smiled like usual, polished, confident, untouchable, until I plugged in my laptop. I walked them through the timeline calmly, showed original drafts, server timestamps, marked up copies, no emotion, just facts. When I finished, I looked directly at Grant and said, "I don't need credit for everything, but I won't carry blame for things that aren't mine, and I won't watch my work become someone else's ladder." The room was silent, the kind of silence that changes things. Grant tried to laugh it off, said it was a misunderstanding, but the board wasn't laughing. They asked questions, specific ones, and for the first time since I started there, I wasn't the one on the defensive. He was. 3 weeks later, the firm announced restructuring. Grant was transitioning out. Madison suddenly wanted to get coffee with me. I declined, not angrily, just simply. The biggest surprise? They offered me lead architect on the Riverside expansion, not as charity, as recognition. The first meeting I led, my hands were shaking under the table, But no one interrupted me, no one smirked, no one laughed, because confidence doesn't shout. It settles. Months later, I walked past that same bathroom stall. The broken latch had finally been fixed. I stood there for a moment, staring at the door, remembering the girl who sat inside it, whispering to herself that she just needed to try harder. She wasn't weak, she was surviving. But survival isn't the same as living. I didn't cry that day. I smiled, because I realized something powerful. The last time you cry in a place that broke you is the first day you take your power back. A year later, I started my own boutique architectural studio. Small, intentional, ethical. Ethan became my first hire. My mom came to the opening. She squeezed my hand and said, "See? You never needed permission." And she was right. Sometimes people ask me what changed. Was it the evidence? The promotion? Grant leaving? No. It was the moment in that bathroom when I decided, this is the last time I cry because someone else wants me small. That decision came before the victory. And that's what made everything else possible. If you're watching this and you're crying in your own bathroom right now, whether that's a job, a relationship, a classroom, or even your own home, hear me clearly. You are not weak for breaking down, but you are powerful when you decide it's the last time you break for the same reason. Document. Prepare. Build quietly. Move smart. And when you step forward, do it calmly, because the strongest glow-ups aren't loud, they're undeniable. If this story moved you, if you've ever felt underestimated, if you've ever been the quiet one in the room, please like and subscribe. And tell me in the comments, where was the last place you cried before everything changed? I'll see you in the next story.